Good afternoon, evening, morning, wherever it is in the world that you are, and welcome in to the iFormula League final round here from the Brazilian Grand Prix circuit. Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache, also known as Interlagos. And for those Brazilian speakers, let me know how that pronunciation was, because I'm going to be honest, I probably butchered that just a little bit. But welcome in everyone. Get yourselves settled in. Because I'm gonna be honest, this one... I mean, it's the final round. This is it. We have a... Well, we do have a fight for the championship win between Ben Goldthorpe and Rolly Shilter, and while it's potentially unlikely, if Ben has a bad Grand Prix and Rolly ends up winning it, who knows what can happen. We do have a stand-in today as well. I'm pretty sure it's Hannah Schlogel who isn't here today. And I believe it is Jeff Schroeder who is taking Hannah's place. In which case, that means they will be obviously racing for the Intend Flat-Out Sim Racing team instead of the Intend Sim Racing team. So, unfortunately, Hannah's looks like they will not be able to compete for third place in the championship. Third place still very much open between Gianluca, Eystein, and I believe that is it. So it's just going to be those two, because I'm not sure if Oyvind and Riley are here today as well. So there are still fights happening in the championship, but it isn't over yet. It's very close between Gianluca and Eystein, so if Eystein is here today, which indeed they are, it's looking like potentially we could see a fight on our hands. And, you know, regardless on whatever happens this race, let's just go out with a bang and make it a good one. Of course, today we will just run through how many laps we do have, followed off by how many laps we will have for the sprint race today. So there is a 36-lap Grand Prix, followed off by an 11-lap sprint. And then, of course, once that is all said and done, that will be, well, from us, season over. And then also, we will find out who has won the F1 series here from the iFormula League. At least for season, I believe this is season 5. Someone may be able to correct me on that one. But, enough waffle. Let's talk about what's actually happening on track at the moment, as I will switch over to give you the rundown on qualifying results so far. So Ben Goldthorpe immediately at the top of the timing sheets, as you would expect, I would imagine. Obviously, Ben Goldthorpe being a name that everyone knows at this point. Everyone is used to seeing win, at least since Riley Jacob and Rolly Shilter have backed out. Or rather, not Rolly Shilter. It was Riley Jacobs. Riley Jacobs and Oyvind Haugland was the other name I was forgetting, sorry. But Ben Goldthorpe, of course, have been very consistent all season long. I think definitely looks to have the pace here today. Although Jeff Schroeder has actually been competing with them, at least in terms of the practice I was watching earlier. The practice times between Jeff Schroeder and Ben Goldthorpe looked incredibly similar, so hopefully we see a little bit of that fight today. As for Rolly Shilter, though, Rolly Shilter, who is obviously fighting for the championship win versus Ben Goldthorpe, is going to need to outscore Ben Goldthorpe in a big way today, though, to make it happen. Is currently purple through Sector 1, green through Sector 2. Let's see how they are through Sector 3. Purple as well, so this potentially could be into the 1-minute 10s for our qualifying lap time, which would be very, very fast indeed. But Rolly Shilter unfortunately gets his purple taken away by Ben Goldthorpe. Surprise, surprise. Ben Goldthorpe also purple in Sector 4. And as we round out the rest of the lap, Rolly Shilter with DRS wide open is going to probably put himself to the timing sheets all the way at the top for now, and then immediately get knocked off by Ben Goldthorpe, I would imagine. But no, actually, does not improve enough to get into the 1-minute 10s, whereas Ben Goldthorpe does indeed do that. Puts himself with a 1:10.893, and Gianluca Iliano is also on a great lap purple through Sector 1 by almost 0.3 of a second based on Ben Goldthorpe's last lap. And then immediately up in Sector 2 as well on Ben Goldthorpe. Sector 3 a little bit down. Sector 4 also a little bit down. So potentially we may see at least Gianluca put himself up to around about second, maybe third. But I'm not sure if he's going to be fighting for the overall pole here. But we shall see as he comes across the line. He does put himself P3 incredibly close to Roly Schultz's time, but not quite close enough to Ben Goldthorpe. Frederick Larson, a name that we've seen throughout the F3 and F1 this season. Putting in consistent results, but maybe not necessarily the ones he would like in the number 7 car. We'll see whether or not he can improve on his lap time and put himself up maybe into P5 or higher. Has to try and split the N10 boys at some point, but puts himself P6 for now. Eystein Schiapolone behind him, finishing up his lap, and I'm pretty sure Eystein will put themselves actually behind Frank Bisa, which is a little bit surprising. I thought Eystein was on a quick lap there. Potentially could have been up near where the N10 guys are, but Eystein seems to have more race pace than quali pace, so maybe not necessarily surprising to some of you out there. Of course, those of you watching the stream, let me know how's your days been so far, where you're watching from. Alex Shanna on a lap as well. We are currently on board with Ben Goldthorpe as he makes his way around. Currently not improving on any lap time, so let's see how Alexander Shanna is getting on as he crosses the line in P6. So again, ahead of his teammate, and then completely misses the braking zone for turn 1. So a little bit of a mistake there. Gianluca Iliano, purple through Sector 1, purple through Sector 2. Roly Schultz currently down on his lap time, maybe just trying to harvest the battery a little. But Gianluca Iliano definitely looking like they've got the pace, but an unfortunate spin there in Sector 3 means they will need to go again. Frank Bisa also looking to try and maybe improve. Maybe take the fight to Frederick Larson and Alex Shanna ahead of him. Needs to improve by quite a substantial amount though. Does our boy Frank. And a couple of other new people joining in just near the end of qualifying, and I'm not entirely sure what team they're in. I believe they're actually joining in the Bisa Racing team. So, Yair Montiel, I probably butchered that name completely as well. And hopefully they got the memo from last week out. I believe they were racing Mercedes paint, so let's see. They have indeed switched, so that's good. No Mercedes jump scare for me to have to try and avoid, as Ben Goldthorpe does. And Ben Goldthorpe things and improve once again to a 1 minute 10.694, of which, of course, very, very fast indeed. And I do wonder how Miami is getting on. For those of you who are watching the race, of course. That is a bit later on this evening. I believe Practice 3 will be on during our race. But then qualifying later tonight. Or in the afternoon, I guess, if you are on American time zones. A track that I've always been not necessarily a big fan of is Miami, but for us here, we're in Brazil, which is always an amazing circuit, always an amazing time as well. As we are 14 minutes left to go in this session. And currently it looks like no one else is really massively improving, so Ben Goldthorpe's time looks like it's going to be quick enough, and I mean, with a 10.6, and Rolly Schilter's 4/10 off, who's your closest rival, I think you're going to be happy if your name's Ben Goldthorpe. One of the only British drivers I believe we have in the series, so big up to him. It's coming home, or whatever the British like to say these days. Jeff Schroeder also trying to improve, I believe, from the... I wanted to say from the Netherlands, but I think it's Lithuania. Is where Jeff Schroeder is from. Ben Goldthorpe still improving, which is, you know, much to no surprise that he can always find even more time. And I do wonder whether or not he'll be able to find a 1 minute 10.5, but with that little bit of a wobble coming out of the final proper corner, it's probably not going to improve through this final sector. So I would imagine that his lap time stays very much the same. Oh, no, he does improve a little bit, actually, to a 1 minute 10.606. So very close indeed to the 1 minute 10.5s. And Jeff Schroeder, our first man within the 1 minute 10s alongside Ben Goldthorpe. Rolly Schilter still not able to improve there just yet. Gianluca Iliano looking to try and do that though. Is purple through sector 2, green through sectors 3 and 4. Does improve to a 1 minute 10.746. So the track is getting better the longer we are racing on it. Alexander Shanna improving to a 1 minute 11.832. So everybody who's out on track at the moment is improving. Alex Shanna making the use of that Lumos budget and really trying to make sure that the mechanics are just wheeling them out new cars every session. Just to make sure that the car is fresh as well as the tyres. Rolly Schilter does improve, does get into the 1 minute 10s finally for himself. So 1 minute 10.939, as that is Grigor, who's currently improving as well, is improving to a 1 minute 11.83, I believe that was. Yeah, going to set his first lap, hopefully. I'm not sure who that is behind him, but they are very much on a quick lap. I believe that was Frederick Larson. Jair Montel opting for the medium tyres in qualifying, which is an interesting choice, as he does unfortunately have a little bit of a spin there. Maybe messing up Eystein a little bit. Ben Goldthorpe really trying to push for everything he's got at the moment. Here cheering for Jeff. Well, Jeff is currently 4th at the moment. And not too far off in the grand scheme of things. I mean, top 4 are all within the 1 minute 10s, so it looks like it's definitely going to be a battle amongst in 10 for the top spots. And then it looks like Troy Banks is a little bit further back, but not necessarily in a world of his own. He does have Alexander Shanna and Grigor in there to fight with. And then, again, a little bit further back is Frank Bieser and Frederick Larson. A little bit of a world of their own, followed off by Eystein Schierpelone. And then Fabian Blitz and Yair. Currently not yet to set a lap time. So it's going to be interesting to see whether or not they can actually do that. Sorry about that, just had to reply to a little bit of a message. But back on board we are then. And I do wonder whether or not the whether or not next season is going to go as successfully as this F1 season has been. There has actually been quite a nice grid out there for a lot of the races this season, so it's been really cool to see. Of course, if you do want to get involved with us, then feel free to follow along with the socials. Make sure you get yourself involved and get ready for next season. Of course, you will need to find a team as well if you wish to compete, but there are plenty of people looking for teams in the Discord, so if you join that, at least you'll be able to come along for the ride, join us, and just enjoy getting out there for some racing on the weekends. Of course, some people not necessarily having weekends free, but hey, why not? Why not give it a go? Nice seeing Shearpalone improving then into the 1-minute 11s. I'm pretty sure that was a 1-minute 11.7. I couldn't quite see that one. As Ben Goldthorpe improved through sectors 4, but not necessarily improved much further else. However, that is a huge improvement in lap time then. 1-minute 10.475. And when I said I wanted to see a 1-minute 10.5, I think we have actually gone and done that. So, amazing from Ben Goldthorpe there then. To see that 1-minute 10.4 rocking in. I mean, the rest of the N10 guys must be looking at that and going, well, he's going to be in a league of his own, really. We just sort of have to chill, enjoy the ride, our one last ride out, at least for this season. Hopefully they'll all be back next season as well. It'll be really fun to see. And the other thing as well is, of course, tomorrow, around about the same time as this race, we do have the F3 Championship on as well. So make sure you join for that, because I'm pretty sure the F3 Championship is still very much open. I will actually take a quick look, because I haven't actually looked at the F3 Championship much more this season, but let's take a look. Okay, the leaders run away with it, but everyone else is still pretty close, I think. At least James Miller has maybe a fight on his hand between himself and Marianne. But yeah, Alex Johnson has absolutely run away with the F3 Championship this season for Intend. Oof. The rest of the grid looks really strong though, so definitely an impressive drive from him in the F3 Championship. So massive shout out to him. It seems like every time I go on board with someone, a couple of corners later they are spinning. Which is, would be just my luck, to be fair. Wonder if we can maybe make some chaos happen today here for the final race of the season. But 5.5 minutes to go of this qualifying session, of course. Ben Goldthorpe leading the way so far, and it looks like no one else is really going to be able to challenge so far. Maybe with a little bit of a tow, people can start breaking into that 1-minute 10 barrier. But Jeff Schroeder's only just about done it. Rolly Schilter, Gianluca Iliano, and Ben Goldthorpe are into the 1-minute 10s, but Rolly Schilter is only just 1-minute 10.94. Well, as I say that, Rolly Schilter is improving. And to avoid jinxing him, I will not go on board with him just yet. I will see whether or not he continues to improve. Rigor, however, let's take a look and see if he can start overtaking Alex Shanna and Troy Banks. You know what? Let's crack on board with the good old onboard cam, and let's take a look at Gregor's setup, see how the car's feeling for him. Currently down in sectors 2 and 3, a little bit wide there in sector 4. Goes around the corner, should be flat out really, so interesting to hear that he's not necessarily doing that. easy on the throttle on the way out of the final corner. DRS, of course, DRS line is way up after the final corner. The detection zone is actually quite far back compared to a lot of other DRS zones. But is Gregor going to be able to improve? No, it doesn't look like he is. So, a little bit unfortunate there from Gregor. As we move on board with Alex Shanna. Actually, no, let's go on board with Eystein. See if Eystein can improve as well. I'm not ever sure if it's Eystein or Oystein. If anyone knows the actual correct pronunciation of that name, feel free to let me know. And oh dear. Oh dear. I'm not sure who that was. Ah. A little bit of an incident in qualifying then. Between Yair and Eystein. Maybe we might be able to see that again. Just catching the tail end of it. I want to say that was just a little unfortunate, that. From Yair, just, I think, touching the, either just touching the rear quarter, or Eystein just didn't realize he was still there. He just turns across, but... yeah, that was a good lap up until that point. Alexander Shanna still improving. And Goldthorpe setting him up for his next flyer. Not really nailing turn 1, but definitely still seeming to carry pace, so we'll see what the first sector time looks like for Ben Goldthorpe. However, yeah, immediately off to the side of the circuit and back into the pit lane. So yeah, Ben Goldthorpe not really able to really lock it down at the moment. Obviously, he has done that 1 minute 10.4, but clearly he thinks he can go faster. So we'll have to wait and see. Frederick Larson, I've just realised, has put himself up into P3. I saw he was improving slightly, but didn't quite realise by how much. Frederick Larson with a 1 minute 10.94. Rody Schilter also has improved to a 1 minute 10. Nope. Sorry, that was their last proper lap, was the 1 minute 10.94. But very, very close indeed between those two. 0.001 of a second. Almost identical times between third and fourth then. Which just makes it that little bit more exciting. Knowing that they're so close on lap time is just absolutely ridiculous. Troy Banks also improving. Rolly Schulter improving through sectors 1, 4, and 5. Does that mean he will go ahead? And yes, he does, with a 1 minute 10.584. Not sure where he found that pace, but... damn. If he needed to improve, that was how you do it. You don't just improve by a little bit, you improve by a heck of a lot. Troy Banks into the 1 minute 11s, the low 1 minute 11s, 0.057, so... again, more people finding more pace, but I think a lot of other people have actually started loading their race setups now, so I wouldn't be surprised to see a couple of drivers just sort of bedding the tyres in and just sort of trying to relax a little bit more. Get ready for the race. Two drivers didn't set a qualifying lap time, by the way, Fabian Blitz and Yair Montel, so they will start at the back. But here we are then for the main race for us today. I almost took a look at the Miami lap times, so that's not that's not what I want to be doing. I want to be looking at the 36 lap race that we have today. And then, of course, 11 laps to go after that. Well, who's excited then? Final round of the season. Of course, we have Ben Goldthorpe on pole, followed off by Rolly Schilter, Gianluca Iliano, Frederick Larson, Jeff Schroeder, Troy Banks, Eystein Schiapolone, Alex Shanna, from Grigor, from Frank, from Fabian, from Yaya. That's 12 cars on the grid. 4 of those cars have opted for the soft compound of tires. Oh, one of them does just switch to the mediums there. That is Grigor, but the rest of them on medium compound tires. So opting to go long in the first stage of the race. Let's see how it pans out for them. And let's get an idea on what this is going to look like from the grid when everybody is ready. Alex Shanna has now put himself onto the grid as well. Fabian Blitz and Yair Montel, I believe, have not started this race. The revs rise then for our finale here. And we are green in Brazil. And it looks like it's been a pretty poor start, actually, from Ben Goldthorpe. Everyone else sort of just sailing on past, really. But everyone keeping it clean so far. There doesn't look to be any drama just yet, apart from maybe that little bit of a bad start from Ben Goldthorpe. Not really sure what happened, but yeah, it looks like he just really didn't get off the line. Alex Shanna trying to fight currently with Jeff Schroeder. Jeff Schroeder now sitting back a little bit, almost a little bit of a world of his own now, actually. Here's Jeff Schroeder. Eystein Schiapolone fighting him, and Jeff really off the back of his teammates. And, you know, I was saying earlier how Rolly Schilter really needs a bad result from Ben Goldthorpe in order to really start taking the championship to him. And this might be what he needs, actually. A bad start from Ben Goldthorpe, putting himself down into P4 at the moment. Needs to start chasing and catching up to Troy Banks to maybe make a move. So then he can start chasing down Frederick Larson and then eventually Rolly Schilter. But I don't think it's going to be easy. And I think if you're Frederick Larson as well, you're obviously thinking about the win of this Brazilian Grand Prix, and I believe this would be your first win of the season into turn 1. Round the outside we go. If our name is Frederick Larson, we look towards the inside line but can't get anywhere. Rolly Schilter doing some great job and some really good defensive driving. And we go again into turn 4 or turn 5, depending on how you want to call it. Frederick Larson still not really able just yet to make any moves, but still keeping Rolly Schilter honest. Rolly making a couple of mistakes a little bit further up. It's going to allow Frederick Larson to maybe look up the inside, around the outside maybe, but no, nowhere to get past just yet. And further down the field, I believe the fights are still going on between Gregor and Eystein and everyone else back there. If we saw a lock-up there from Jeff Schroeder, actually. So Alex Shanna has gotten past Jeff Schroeder and actually started to run away once again with those soft tires, really starting to make the use of the grip that he has. Frederick Larson down the straight then. DRS will be enabled this lap by, so going down the back straight, Frederick Larson will have the assistance from the big old rear wing opening up. Currently fastest man on track, Alexander Shanna, 1 minute 13.370. Which is actually quite close to what Gianluca Iliano's lap time was. Everybody weaving around in the background, you can see it. Everybody with DRS really trying to catch up, make the use of it, and eventually find a way past. But Frederick Larson not able to do it this time by. Is actually going to drop back a little bit. I think Frederick Larson's battery may be deploying a bit too aggressively there as they fight through one more lap then. Ben Goldthorpe still not really able to fight Troy yet, but is catching up. Gianluca Iliano behind him also catching. Alexander Shanna also within touching distance of the DRS, so a massive potential here for Alexander Shanna to actually sneak in a couple of good results. Needs to get within DRS range by that line there. He is indeed well past, well within range. So once we see the DRS open here, we should see Alexander Shanna make this pass relatively easy on Gianluca Iliano. And indeed, around the outside with the extra grip of the soft tyres, maybe makes it easy. Has to duck into the inside line as well. On the outside then, once again, that Gianluca Iliano is fighting for it. Actually picked up DRS, so I'm not sure if Gianluca baited him in there just to grab the DRS so he didn't have to worry about Alexander Shanna down the straight, but that is one heck of a move if that is the case. That is some very smart driving from Gianluca Iliano. And really, it doesn't give Alexander a way to fight. Alex is sort of stuck if that's going to be how Gianluca is going to be fighting this. You know, if he is starting to give him DRS into that straight, give up the position but gain DRS down the straight and then use it to get back past, it's very difficult, because really that one's the one you would think, and oh no, Rolly Schilter off there into the final corner, or at least the penultimate corner, off in a big way, struggling to get back onto the circuit as those tires spin up. He's going to be put down way to the back of the grid. And actually, Troy Banks has just got past Frederick Larson as well. So Troy Banks up 2 positions in the space of 2 corners, and now actually starting to run away from Frederick. So Frederick was fighting Rolly, gets past him, and now immediately has to try and make his way back through. Does look up the inside of Troy Banks then, the two giving enough racing room just about. Ben Goldthorpe looking at a nice P3 now. And again, the lead of the championship. I mean, if Ben Goldthorpe just finishes ahead of Rolly Schilter, it will be enough to take the win of the championship. There will be no more points available. Rolly Schilter basically needed to score max points here to be able to overtake Ben Goldthorpe, and Ben Goldthorpe really had to drop all of them. So if Ben Goldthorpe just does his thing, races smart, he could actually win the championship here on this race. And it's up to him, really, what he wants to do for the sprint. Doesn't even really have to race it. Should be a shame, of course, if he didn't end up racing it, but what are you going to do? Now, Frederick Larson, how are you going to defend from Troy Banks? He sticks all the way to the inside. If you look around the outside, you will see Troy Banks try to keep that car stable, but yeah, Frederick Larson just not able to really defend the extra grip, seemingly from just not having to push as hard. Troy is just doing an amazing job of just managing this race so far, placing his car really well, placed it in basically the middle of the track, but no way for you to get through, and as a result, one more time, Troy Banks is putting on a stellar defensive job. Ben Goldthorpe, of course, just sitting behind and really just, I think he's just waiting for a mistake. I don't think he can really do anything about this. I think he has to sort of just wait for someone to maybe put a foot wrong so that he can make a move that isn't risky. And that's his thing, and that's what he's thinking about. He's thinking about the championship and how he really needs to just make sure that he gets there. He makes it to the end. Of course, Frederick Larson will have DRS on Troy Banks, and we know how that went for Troy Banks last time. Let's see if it goes very similarly to Frederick Larson, and it looks like it has. Troy Banks once again behind Frederick Larson. This will be a chop and change every single time we come round to the turn, to turn 1, I should say. I'm really Schilter now, actually in a fight with Frank Bieser, it looks like. All the way down there in P9. Which I'm not sure if he's dropping off because of some other reason, but it looks like he is really struggling in that Mercedes now. Yeah, Frank Bieser's managed to get past him. We might be able to actually take a look at this move. This is Frank Bieser on Rolly Schilter. DRS. Dives it up the inside, and I believe Rolly Schilter just says, you know what, mate? Just take it. Rolly Schilter just not able to really fight at the moment. It's just a bit of a shame. After that one spin, that's all it really took. Troy Banks now with the DRS then knows that Frederick Larson's going to defend the inside for all he's worth. And Frederick's just going to sit back inside, and once again, we go for the second time Ben Goldthorpe almost looked to try and make the move there on Frederick Larsen, but no way past just yet. And this fight so far has been amazing for the top 4 positions, and Alex Shanna's looking to try and get involved as well. But of course, Alex Shanna is going to have to pit before everyone else. But the fight between Troy Banks, Frederick Larsen, Ben Goldthorpe, and Gianluca Iliano, just absolutely incredible to watch. And you know, I do wonder, actually, whether or not all this fighting is actually going to put these guys in a bit of a bad position, and whether or not someone like Gianluca Iliano, who hasn't really been fighting that hard with the cars ahead, I'm wondering whether or not there's a strategy here for Intend, in the fact that Ben Goldthorpe knows he's faster over 1 lap than Gianluca behind him. Gianluca probably is aware of that too, but of course, as a racing driver, probably does want to fight. However, are they sort of going to sit back and just go, right, you know what? We'll let these 2 in front destroy their tyres, so they have to pit earlier than us. We'll go 1 or 2 laps longer, and then we'll just absolutely blitz it. Problem with doing that, of course, is you enable Alex Shanna to start getting involved if you're Gianluca Iliano. And that's not necessarily a good thing, because Alex Shanna, of course, is on the soft tyres and running a completely different strategy to you. So it's almost going to ruin things a little bit by making you push way harder than you need to. But some interesting thoughts then as we move into the 9th lap, potentially 10th lap of this race. To complete the 9th lap, I should say. 26 more tours of the island to go. And Troy Banks, not quite close enough to Frederick Larsen that lap. Frederick Larsen, currently the fastest man in this train by almost a substantial amount. 1 minute 13.4. The next fastest on track was Eystein Schierploen a bit further back with a 1 minute 13.5. And they're all actually really, really close on circuit. I mean, even back as far as P6 and P7, you can see just in the background of the shots with Alex Shanna. So, again, within touching distance, if they can go maybe a lap longer, get a better pit strategy, or just generally push on a little bit faster, you know, they've saved their tires. Maybe they can just use the extra grip. Who knows? I think it is too early to call who's going to win this race so far. I mean, money on Ben Goldthorpe, but Frederick Larsen's been doing a great job. Troy Banks has been doing an amazing job, and really a surprise for me. I think Troy is definitely putting a lot into this final race, and it's showing. Alexander Shanna as well, really high up and really putting in effort. I mean, yes, he's on the soft tyres. He is on a faster tyre than everyone else, but he's keeping up with them. So, who knows? Gianluca Iliano, 1 minute 13.275, his personal best. Troy Banks doing a 1 minute 13.149, so only a tenth quicker than what Frederick Larsen was able to do. And he had DRS on both straights there, important note. So Frederick Larsen is really pushing everything he's got at the moment to try and win this Grand Prix, win this feature race. Of course, Ben Goldthorpe has probably just sat there up in P3 going, you know what? I'm actually okay with this. You know, yes, it's P3 and I maybe want to take the win of the race, but overall, I'm taking the win of the championship if I just finish here, so maybe a P3 is all I really need. As we go on board then, Frederick Larsen keeping it very smooth, very tidy for now. But once again, Troy Banks just not really able to find that pace at the moment. Ben Goldthorpe is currently faster by a 10th. And it makes me wonder, Troy Banks with the move then, up the inside of Frederick Larson. DRS, of course, making that an interesting fight. Ben Goldthorpe looks to maybe try and make it 3 wide, but thought better of it. Frederick Larson doing an incredible defensive job one more time. And again, Frederick Larson just seems to have something this circuit. He just seems to really enjoy it. Troy Banks actually now dropping a bit further back off Frederick, and if Frederick can push here, get out of DRS range from Troy Banks, then who knows where we end up. And Troy Banks has made a little bit of a mistake, a little bit of a wobble, and that's exactly what's happened. Troy Banks is not within DRS range, which means Frederick Larson can actually start pushing away now. There's going to be no DRS from Troy Banks, so Ben Goldthorpe and Gianluca Iliano are going to be unleashed here. And Rolly Schilter has indeed crashed a little bit further back, so unfortunate from them. Ben Goldthorpe just not able to make the move on Troy Banks then. Thought maybe better of it. Maybe just tries to get DRS for the second time and do it here. Ben Goldthorpe, again, maybe looking, but not quite close enough just yet. Maybe a lower downforce package for Troy Banks. Maybe that's why he lost it a little bit through a couple of the corners, because it does seem like he is nowhere near as fast as he usually is around here. Istein Schiapolone also trying to fight a little bit more. I think Gianluca Iliano with a little bit of a scare there to Ben Goldthorpe, and that actually forced him to lock up there a little bit. Gianluca Iliano now actually behind Alexander Shanna. Alexander Shanna could be on for a podium here. The boss man himself. Alexander Shanna. Now, no one is within DRS range of each other except for Gianluca Iliano on Alex and Istein on Jeff. So, Lumos on Intend and Intend on Lumos. Really, the only two battles on track at the moment, as we do move on to lap 14 of 36 here. I'm not sure where Alex got DRS from, but definitely had it for a moment there. Just went on off track there on the exit. Does allow Gianluca Iliano to get back past. So Gianluca now passed Alexander Shanna one more time. I think that's a sign that the soft tyres are starting to go for Alexander Shanna. He's definitely not as much in control as you would otherwise expect. Istein, though, still putting on a great fight for Jeff Schroeder a bit further back. It's been a fight we've been watching pretty closely, maybe not on the TV screens, as there has been obviously a fight for between first and fourth at one point, with fifth almost getting involved there before all broke loose and Frederick Larson was unleashed. But Istein doing a great job at just keeping with Jeff at the moment. I believe if you're Istein, this is what you want. You want to just stay close. You want to maybe get the move made, but once again, gets close enough to make a move, and then just Jeff Schroeder just outbreaks Istein every time. Unfortunately, not quite close enough. Maybe tries to do it here. Tried to maybe hook up around the outside, but nope, once again, Jeff Schroeder doing an amazing job at just driving his line. Being really defensive, driving his line, and then from there can just push on a little bit further. Alexander Shanna not really close enough anymore to make any other threats just yet on Gianluca Iliano. Now, as I say that, he is getting a little bit closer in the twisty stuff. Needs to be within a second, of course, by this DRS detection line, which he will not be, so no DRS for Alexander Shanna. DRS for Troy Banks. He has actually caught up to the back of Frederick Larson then. And Ben Goldthorpe in a little bit of a world of his own. Troy Banks, fastest lap off the race so far with a 1:13 flat. And as you can see, the cloud creeping in maybe means we've actually gotten a little bit of a faster track condition. Jeff Schroeder into the pits. First one to blink then, and that's even ahead of the soft tyre runners. So maybe just wants to go medium, soft, soft. That's definitely an interesting strategy from Jeff. We'll see how it plays out. He's got to go 20 laps on the soft tyres when he only made the mediums go 16. Seems a little unlikely, but maybe he knows something else that I don't. Of course, you want to be on the soft tyres for as long as possible, because even when they're wearing, they're still slightly faster than the mediums. So, we'll have to wait and see. Keep an eye on Jeff Schroeder then, as he tries to claw his way back through the field, and we'll see if he pits one more time. Troy Banks getting ever closer than 1 minute 13.6 compared to Frederick Larsson's 1 minute 13.7. So it looks like Troy unleashed all of his ERS energy, his harvested energy, unleashed all of the battery on the last lap, and is maybe now trying to make it up while within DRS range, so not having to push that as hard. Eystein Schierpalo now pitting from mediums as well. Which again, a little bit of an interesting strategy from a lot of these drivers. I'm wondering whether or not, because this circuit I would call pretty rough on the tyres, so the fact that I'm seeing a lot of people coming into the pit lane now and trying to make the softs last the rest of the race, just seems a little bit risky, is all. But as I say, maybe they know something that I don't. I would have thought, really, you'd want the softs for 15 laps, but probably not much longer. Alright, Alexander Shanna. His pace hasn't exactly dropped off until recently, so last couple of laps. So you could probably go about 15 laps on the soft tyres, which means if you're on mediums, you need to make them go at least to lap 21, maybe 22. If you want to give the softs the absolute best chance possible to maybe make some moves near the end. But Jeff Schroeder then is improving, 1 minute 13.6 on his first lap on the soft tyres. We'll have to wait and see whether or not Eystein we know is quick, and whether or not they improve as well, whether or not they set a new PB. And how long they'll be able to make that last. Alexander Shanna then has pit from softs to mediums, so Alexander Shanna is going to the end on that set of tyres. I do think the medium tyre runners are actually starting to experience a little bit of tyre wear now. Definitely not seeming as fast as they were. I think that's reflected in the fact that a few of them are now pitting. The soft tyre runners really are starting to make their own moves now. Jeff Schroeder with a 1 minute 13.2, which is almost fastest lap of the race from... I don't want to say Jeff Schroeder was necessarily slow, but he's definitely not been the fastest driver in this race so far, so if he's getting close to what Troy Banks was able to do on the mediums, maybe Troy needs to think, right, we've built up a pretty good gap to where Alexander Shanna is. Maybe now's the time. But nope, one more lap they do go around the island. 1 minute 13.3 from Ben Goldthorpe, by the way, so he's really made those medium tyres last. He's probably looking to maybe go until lap 25 and give a really good sprint out on these soft tyres. Of course, if he can get to lap 25 and then go onto the soft tyres, he's basically doing the F1 sprint race twice. Minus, obviously, the fact that he would have already raced a bit, so knows the track a little bit more. The track's a little bit more rubbered in. Fastest lap of the race then from Jeff Schroeder, 1 minute 12.962. Which is actually not that much off of what Troy Banks was able to do earlier on in the race. But definitely pushing Alexander Shanna. And I wonder whether or not Alex is going to give up the fight to Jeff, knowing that those two are on two completely different tyre compounds, and then actually use Jeff to save tyres and actually catch up to everyone else ahead so that he can still be within that window when those guys do pit. Because again, Frederick Larson's doing one more lap. Troy Banks, Ben Goldthorpe also doing one more lap. I believe that's exactly what Alexander Shanna's doing. Just don't need to necessarily fight it too hard. Just stick with him. If he is faster than you at the moment because he is on medium tyres, then at least you've got DRS. You can save your medium tyres, and then when his softs start wearing out, you can actually then start pushing back. And I mean, the gap between yourself and Gianluca will come down as a result. So, ooh, a little bit of a late lunge there from Alexander Shanna, locked up a little bit. Great wreck avoidance from Jeff Schroeder. Einstein Schierpelin with a 1 minute 13.5, so everyone who's on softs, the fastest people on track so far, as you would expect. Alexander Shannon's going to try round the outside once again on Jeff Schroeder, and this is doing the exact opposite of what he needs to be doing right now. You need to just let Jeff get on with it, and just sit behind. You can't afford to be fighting him all the time, because all you're really doing then is wrecking his tyres and allowing Gianluca Iliano to step away from you. You were fighting for, obviously, P4 further up, as Troy Banks does pit then from second place, I believe it was. Be interesting to see whether or not he comes out ahead of Schroeder and Shanna. So Troy Banks out of the pit lane then. Seemingly in a little bit of a world of his own. So time that to absolute perfection then has Jeff Schroeder. Sorry, it has Troy Banks. And I believe Alexander Shanna has fluffed up the strategy a little bit, because he was a lot closer to that. Sorry, to Troy Banks than that. But now here's the interesting thing then. Troy Banks pit from second place and is now down 18 seconds on Ben Goldthorpe. So you know it's about an 18-second pit lane. While Troy is still trying to get some heat into the tyres, is now the chance to pit if you're Ben Goldthorpe and Gianluca. Knowing that, yes, his tyres will be fresher than yours in terms of they'll be heated up a lot more. You can at least gun it the moment you come out of the pits and maybe use the DRS to your advantage. Ben Goldthorpe then. And there's Troy Banks. So Ben Goldthorpe, I believe, will actually come out ahead of Troy Banks. But Troy Banks will have DRS. So a fight into turn 4 we go, the fight of which goes in the favour of Troy Banks, and now Ben Goldthorpe has very much a fight on his hands. Rolly Shilter with a 1 minute 12.227, so very, very quick lap time from Rolly Shilter on his first lap on the medium, sorry, on the soft tyres, should say. So Ben Goldthorpe with the fight on his hand then, versus Troy Banks. All these drivers going softs till the end. And I'm still interested to see whether or not Jeff Schroeder can actually make these soft tyres last, because that seemed very early. Hitting on lap 15 to go on softs to the end. Interesting. Definitely a bold call. And oh no, Alex Shanna has crashed out of this Grand Prix. Let's go on board with him then. And see what happened. Oh dear, rear stepped out. No downforce there. Just about avoids the wall. So I think he can still continue on, but that is a mistake you really didn't want to make. Also, Frederick Larson has come into the pits, has come out of the pits ahead of Ben Goldthorpe and Troy Banks, most importantly. So the overcut very much working in Frederick Larson's favour. Now just needs to get heat into those tyres and go. He really needs to now get away from Ben Goldthorpe and get away from Troy Banks. And Ben Goldthorpe, once again, you know, doing a stellar job at just making sure that he can be in the right place at the right time and take a win of this race. Ben Goldthorpe with DRS then. And the hotter tyres, the fresher tyres as well. I don't think there's a world in which Frederick Larson holds off Ben Goldthorpe here. Indeed not. 1 minute 12.924 from Ben Goldthorpe on his first lap out. Gianluca Iliano with a 1 minute 12.479. So it's looking as though we will have Ben Goldthorpe versus Frederick Larson for the win here. But maybe not necessarily the win of the race. Oh, sorry, the win of the championship. Although I think, judging by what I was saying earlier, maybe. Because if I do some quick maths, for those of you who are watching, Ben Goldthorpe has 20 points between the two of them. And the maximum amount of points you can get in a sprint race is 14. So, yep. All Ben Goldthorpe needs to do is just score at least 1 point here. Just finish the race. And Rolly Schulter, unfortunately, will only be able to finish P2. And there's no realistic way for Gianluca Iliano to overtake Rolly Schulter either. So both of them, if Ben Goldthorpe does manage to just finish this race, as I've just seen a 1 minute 11.8 on my screen. That's not purple, but I have seen a 1 minute 12.1 that is purple. So Ben Goldthorpe may be getting an off track, and that's why. But Frederick Larson really trying to push now. He wants the win of this race. He wants the win of our feature here. I do believe as well the difference between Gianluca Iliano and Eystein Schiapolone will mean that our standings will be confirmed as far as first, second, third and fourth go. And I believe a bit further down than that as well. Yeah, Troy Banks can't overtake Hannes, who isn't here today. Riley Jacob and Oyvind Haugland, obviously both of those drivers not here today. So they're just going to lose out to everyone else. Which means, if the race finishes like this, if Gianluca finishes ahead of Eystein, and Ben Goldthorpe finishes this race, we will know that Ben Goldthorpe will be our IFL Season 5 champion. Even if he doesn't end up winning this race, all he needs to do is finish. Gianluca Iliano just needs to finish ahead of Eystein Schiapolone. And that is first, second, and third in the championship for Inten Sim Racing. And the Inten Flat Out Sim Racing team as well. And then I think there will be a few other positions maybe gained. I think Alex Shanna may be able to overtake Jacob Bieser, and I think Frederick Larson potentially could overtake Frank Bieser as well in the championship, but I don't think Frederick is going much higher than P9. So 9 more laps then. Frederick Larson really, really wants to get past Ben Goldthorpe, but makes a huge mistake there, locking up into turn one. Actually loses out to Troy Banks as well, and then spins it. Coming back onto the circuit, Frederick Larson has gone from bad to worse here. Loses out, going from P2 down to P4, and potentially Jeff Schroeder there in the background, just coming out of the... I believe that's turn 4 or turn 5. I always forget which way around it is, but yeah, Frederick Larson makes an unforced error, really, and Ben Goldthorpe now out in a world of his own, ahead of Troy Banks, maybe actually giving Jean-Luc third place as well. So Frederick Larson's going to really have to get his foot down if he wants to overtake Gianluca Iliano later on in this race. Or Gianluca Iliano needs to make a mistake as well. 6 seconds in 6 laps is it's going to be a pretty hard ask, considering Gianluca Iliano isn't slow either. Everybody was doing 1 minute 12.3s on the previous lap from this one. Now everyone dropping into the high 112s or the low 113s. Frederick Larson, I imagine, doing a 1 minute 23.6, which is quite a fair bit off. And maybe the other thing as well to note is the fact that now, when I was saying how Frederick Larson might be able to overtake Frank Bisa, keep in mind that with him dropping a few more positions, maybe it's not so clear-cut. Obviously, you look at the massive difference that those two have on track in terms of Frederick Larson is 4th, but Frank Bisa is 9th. However, in the championship, Frederick Larson is currently 19 points behind Frank Bisa, so needs to outscore him by 19 points, of course. And I'm just about to see what the point difference is in this race. It is 10-point difference. Which means that Frederick Larson really needs to do well in the sprint to have a hope of overtaking Frank in the championship. He's going to need to outscore him by 9 points, which is mathematically possible. However, it is going to be a very tall order. Frank Bisa basically would need to finish last in the sprint, with Frederick Larson either finishing P1 or P2. So, yeah, definitely an unfortunate one from Frederick then, because he could have made the job just so much easier if he'd finished P2. I mean, P2 would have been 14 points in his favour, which means he would have only needed a 5-point difference. Now he needs a 9-point difference, so in the sprint to overtake. Which is, as I say, is possible, but definitely difficult, so maybe it is all she wrote. It will definitely be all she wrote mathematically for some of these drivers. Ben Goldthorpe, of course, with the championship win, provided nothing happens here and Rolly Shorter just suddenly gets the lead of this race. Gianluca Iliano, of course, finishing ahead of Eystein Schiapolon, which is all he really needs to do, which will give him the 3rd place in the championship. And then Rolly Shilter, all he needs to do is really finish. Because if he can't fight Ben Goldthorpe, then Gianluca Iliano is nowhere close enough, really. So the pressure got to Rolly a little bit. And Rolly, unfortunately, not able to take a good result in the race, but definitely a good result in the championship, finishing P2 behind his teammate. A championship that has had its fair share of drama, of course. But maybe we do get some last lap action here between Gianluca Iliano and Troy Banks. Who knows? Four more laps to go then of this race, and I believe Jeff Schroeder has actually made those soft tyres last, by the way, which is an absolutely incredible achievement, making him last almost 21 laps. In fact, it will be 21 laps by the time he's finished. But Gianluca Iliano then really starting to push to try and catch up to the back of Troy Banks. 6/10 quicker last lap by. And with DRS, he tries one more time to get close enough, but unfortunately not able to do anything just yet. Gianluca Iliano trying to bide his time, maybe. Doesn't want to force a mistake, because obviously does still need to finish ahead of Eystein, and one big crash, of course, would definitely do that. But Gianluca Iliano then, as we move on to lap 34, he's got 3 more attempts with DRS to get past. He's going to get DRS again on this second straight. Is it going to be enough? I don't think it is. I think Gianluca has dropped off a little bit here, off the back of Troy Banks, and all Gianluca really needs to do is just really hold off and try to just make his way safely through everything that's going on track at the moment. I will say, Frederick Larson has caught up, but maybe not as much as he would have liked. Frederick Larson, of course. If he did get P3, that would make his job against Frank Biesel for the championship much easier. But then Frederick Larson has also missed out a few rounds as well, so even being quite high up in the championship, I imagine he's still going to be pretty happy with the top 10. Gianluca dipping the tyres there, just on braking. Surprised there wasn't a spin, but well held from him. Now actually starting to push one more time. He has this lap plus the next lap to go before we find out who really has won this championship. And I believe no doubt in anyone else's mind that Ben Goldthorpe, stellar all season, even with the Racing Lab team being so dominant near the beginning. Ben Goldthorpe has been there or thereabouts the entire season, and the fact that the Racing Lab team didn't finish it off when they had the chance means Ben Goldthorpe took it and has just run away since. Very, very difficult to catch, been very, very quick all season, humble all season as well. Ben Goldthorpe, very, very nice guy, someone who I'm actually really happy is winning the championship. Of course, maybe a slight British bias, but so move on to the final lap of this race then. Ben Goldthorpe really can just cruise it home, doesn't need to do anything too drastic. Troy Banks and Gianluca Iliano still in a fight. Of course, Gianluca now, this is his last chance saloon to gain that P2 off of Troy Banks. As the DRS opens up for one final time. Well, I say one final time, he will have the start-finish straight, but it seems like Troy Banks has been so much quicker through this middle sector. It's been pretty difficult for Gianluca to really get anywhere. As we see one more time, Gianluca Iliano dropping back one more time. He is, unfortunately, dropping back in these later few corners, but then brings it back just enough to really take the fight to him in the final sector or so. And there is a huge discrepancy here. I don't know whether or not Troy Banks has potentially run out of fuel, but we're going to get a drag race to the line, a drag race for P2. DRS wide open for Gianluca Iliano, and that is all she wrote. Very, very close across the line between the two of them, but Gianluca Iliano on the last lap, final few corners, takes P2 from Troy Banks. The championship win and race win goes in the favor of Ben Goldthorpe. Jeff Schroeder picking up P5 from Frederick Larson, who got P4. Eystein Schiapolone picks up P6, and Rolly Schilter down at the back with a very unfortunate start will pick up P7. Frank Bisa down there in P9, Alex Shanna in P10. Alex Shanna had a really good race, but unfortunately threw it all away a little bit later on. And then Grigor picking up P8 as well. And that does mean then, with our updated championship standings, Ben Goldthorpe will take our championship win. Rolly Schulter will be P2 in the championship, and Gianluca Iliano will finish P3. There is no statistical way for that to change. Our top three are all done and dusted here for us in the IFL. And what that means is our final race can be rather fun for us, I think. As I'm unsure what the overlay is doing here. It's decided that text doesn't exist anymore. It's given me some Times New Roman font for the overall instead of the font we normally have, but yeah, what can we do? Technical difficulties in the final race. Really wouldn't have it any other way. But that is, of course, our feature race here. Next up, of course, don't go anywhere because we do have our main sprint race, which is 11 laps around this circuit. And we saw how hectic it was near the start for those 11 laps, so I imagine it is going to be even better. But of course, we want to give one last shout out to our sponsor in Extreme Scoring.
Allow Extreme Scoring to do the work for you.
And of course, we couldn't really do this all without Extreme Scoring. They make our job here at the IFL so much easier indeed. So, of course, for anyone who is watching along, make sure you get involved with that. A little bit of an overlay refresh, and all is good in the world, it seems. But of course, we want to give another massive shout out to the rest of our sponsors as well, seeing as it is the final round of the championship. Family Money, one of our drivers' companies, Patrick Olsen. Extreme Scoring, obviously, we heard from them earlier with a little bit of a commercial. Butt Kicker as well, some of the best in the business for improving your immersion. Capral Sim Racing, one more time as well. Capral Sim Racing, makers of some of the finest, and I mean finest, sim racing gear that you'll see. And for those of you who are waiting for our sprint race, one thing you can do is get yourself a drink, get yourself hydrated, get yourself maybe something to eat. You've got a minute and a half left of warm-up. Get yourself a little something to snack on, because you aren't going to want to move from your seat during this sprint race. It's going to be absolute chaos. I myself have a little something something. In the commentary booth by myself, obviously. Gotta get my own drinks and my own food, but they did provide everything on site, which was nice. So 10 seconds then until we get ready for our final race here of the IFL Season 5 for the Formula 1 group, at least. And indeed, a city like no other is Sao Paulo in Brazil. If you can ever get there to watch a race, go do it. Why not? Experience Interlagos. Imagine it is a wonderful circuit. I'd also imagine it is pretty dang hot too. As we see the grid then for this race, we have Montel on the pole position, because we do a reverse top 10 grid. Fabian Blitz in P2, Alexander Shanna P3, Frank Bisa P4, Gregor P5, Rolly Schilter P6, Iceland Schiapolon P7, Jeff Schroeder in P8, Frederick Larson P9, Troy Banks P10, Gianluca Iliano P11, and then of course Ben Goldthorpe in P12, and Fabian Blitz once again not starting here in this race, so there will be no second place on the inside of Montel, but Alexander Shanna with an absolutely great start compared to everyone else. And it is looking like there has been already some carnage here further down the order, as Montel is backwards on the start-finish straight. I believe he got a little bit swarmed earlier on, and Frederick Larson is already up into P4. Now into P3, fighting with Frank Bisa, who's just letting everyone through, it seems, but Frederick Larson got an absolutely incredible start into Turn 1. Alex Shanna leading this race then, from Rody Schilter, from Frederick Larson, from Troy Banks, from from Frank Bisa, from Gregor, from Jeff, from Jean, from Ben, from Eystein, and then Yair a little bit further back. Really, Ben Goldthorpe trying to make his moves past the Intent guys, and really just wants to get past cleanly, but can't really find anywhere to do it. Of course, this is now going to allow Eystein Schiapolon to fight with Ben Goldthorpe as well, so we have a four-way fight here between the Intent group plus one. Rolly Schilter, actually, in the pit lane, by the way. Rolly Schilter flying off the track somewhere, but I don't know where. Let's see if we can get on board with this. And oh dear, that is a big off. Into the wall he goes. Alexander Schanner then has been overtaken by Frederick Larson. I have just realised. Was this a simple move, I wonder? Oh, indeed it wasn't. Up the inside. Holds it round the outside as well. Uses the cutback, actually, to get through. What a fight here between Alexander Schanner and Frederick Larson. And now, further up ahead, Alexander Schanner and Frederick Larson side by side, almost banging wheels here. And oh dear, there is a driver off. Troy Banks has crashed. Collided with another driver. I'm not sure who that was. I want to say that was Yair Montel, but could have been Frank Beeser as well, actually. Yeah, indeed it was. It was Frank. That is a little unfortunate from Troy and Frank colliding then. Frank coming out the pit lane and just getting it all sorts of wrong. Frederick Larson going for the win that he didn't have. Alexander Schanner going for the result that he didn't have as well. Out the inside of Frederick Larson then. And this fight is absolutely thrilling between these two. Alexander Schanner and Frederick Larson, not typically one of the drivers, at least of these two, you would expect near the front end. But Alexander Schanner, I mean, if you can make it work, you seem quick around Brazil, so continue on. And this is what you can get. Ben Goldthorpe slowly making his way through, actually up 8 positions, so he's up to P4 now. Doesn't even really need the result, but doing an amazing job. Ben Goldthorpe having a little bit of an issue here with his internet. He is blinking just a touch. It's not too much, but I've noticed him disappearing a few times as Alexander Schanner then having to defend from Frederick Larson. Frederick Larson does get past. And Ben Goldthorpe also makes his way cleanly around Gregor as well. So Ben Goldthorpe now into P3 and can start chasing down Alexander Schanner and Frederick Larson ahead of him. Jeff Schroeder also trying to fight with Gregor, but not quite close enough just yet. Jeff proving to be pretty dang quick around here, actually. It seems like the battle between Frederick Larson and Alexander Schanner very much went in the way of Alexander Schanner. In the way of Frederick Larson. And actually, Alexander Schanner's now dropping back into the clutches of Ben Goldthorpe. And whilst that is going on, we are watching this battle between Eystein Schiapolone, Gianluca Iliano, and Jeff Schroeder. See all three of them there. Line astern. A little bit further ahead of Jeff Schroeder is Gregor, so this is your battle for P4. And further up ahead, Ben Goldthorpe with DRS on Alexander Schanner. Wasn't going to try and make a move just yet. Jeff Schroeder has just suddenly disappeared from my timing screens. No, he's back. Doing the vanishing act. But he's back. Yair Montel, unfortunately, having a little bit more incidents as well. Ben Goldthorpe really actually trying to put pressure on Alex Shana, and maybe not even someone he thought that he'd be fighting with, but definitely still has to make the move cleanly. And with DRS, you would imagine he gets this done pretty easily. DRS, there's no way really for Alexander Shana to defend. He tries his best, of course, but then Goldthorpe just a little bit too quick. And I mean, even from further back, Jeff Schroeder gets past Gregor pretty convincingly. I believe Eystein did overtake Gianluca Iliano as well. And now I wonder whether or not any other changes are going to be made for the rest of this race. We've got 4 more laps to go. Eystein does make a pretty bold move, actually, to overtake Gregor there. But makes it work. And I've only just realised that Eystein's on the medium tyres. So maybe thinking the softs weren't going to last the entire sprint, actually making them work. So I don't know if this was just a mistake from Eystein, but everyone else is on soft tyres and they haven't pit yet, so definitely started on the mediums. And the confidence clearly in Eystein's favour. Maybe just didn't like how the softs felt after a certain amount of laps. But still on board with Eystein then as they try to make their way past Jeff Schroeder. Gianluca Iliano trying to make his way past Grigor, and Grigor trying to make his way past Eystein. So these 4 very much in a battle for P4. No one seeming to go too wide off circuit at the moment. They're all just keeping it very clean, very tight. Very tidy. As with Slipstream and DRS, is Gianluca Iliano going to be able to get past Grigor? And indeed he does. Immediately straight back past. And Gianluca Iliano now fights his way away. And I believe Grigor making a little bit of a mistake there, diving a little bit way too deep onto the brakes. And that means Grigor is probably now down in P7 and not really going to be gaining much more, especially considering we only have 2 more laps to go here off this sprint race, and Ben Goldthorpe not really close enough to Frederick Larsen to make Frederick think about it. Alexander Shana potentially picking up a P3 as well, provided he just makes it to the end. Seems like he's got the pace over the 2 cars behind him. But as I say that, Jeff Schroeder is catching. This entire pack is catching. And this will be a 4-way fight for P3 with 2 laps to go of this sprint race. Frederick Larsen is leading, followed off by Ben Goldthorpe from Alex Shana from Jeff Schroeder, from Eystein Schiapolone, from Gianluca Iliano. Grigor there in P7, Troy Banks in P8, Frank Bisa P9, Yair Montel in P10, Really Schilter P11, Fabian Blitz not even starting either race. 2 more laps to go. Let's see if Alexander Shana, the boss man, can hold off. Jeff definitely seeming quick in the middle sector. Eystein also quick. Maybe needs to start battling with Jeff to give Alex some breathing room. Then again, all Alex really needs to do is just defend his position for 1 more lap after this one. I've just realised further up ahead, Ben Goldthorpe has made a massive mistake. I don't know where he made that mistake, but he got held up massively. As you can see, with a 1 minute 15 lap time, which is very unlike him. As all the drivers coming into turn number 3. Jeff Schroeder looking to the inside line then. DRS wide open for Jeff Schroeder. Alex Shanna not really be able to fight it just yet. Does look up the inside, actually, of Jeff Schroeder. Needs to stick with him, does Alexander Shanna. This is your final lap of the Brazilian Grand Prix sprint race. Alexander Shanna really does need to keep on Jeff Schroeder here. Really needs to force Jeff into a mistake. And Gianluca Iliano currently doing that with Eystein Schierpalone behind. You can see that battle raging on. Gianluca Iliano getting the best of it for now. Alexander Shanna. It's going to be a sprint race to the line then between Jeff Schroeder and Alex Shanna. Jeff getting the better initial traction, and I believe because the DRS zone is so far away, I believe we will see Frederick Larsen win this race. We will see Ben Goldthorpe take P2, Jeff Schroeder P3, Alexander Shanna P4, Gianluca Iliano P5, but only just about from Eystein Schierpalone in P6, Grigor P7, Troy Banks P8, Frank Bisa P9, and what a sprint. What a final race of the season. And of course, a massive, massive, massive congratulations to our main man, Ben Goldthorpe, for winning the championship here. And his teammates as well, Roly Schulze and Gianluca Iliano. Roly, of course, not having the greatest results, but picking up P2 in the championship and P3 in the championship. And let's get a word in here from our man who ended up winning our sprint race. Frederick, mate, you got yourself a win in the sprint. Congratulations on that. But I think a talking point. What happened in the feature? You were P2 pretty comfortably, pushing on maybe to try and, I think it was fight with.
I think my sound is broken. I can't hear anything.
Oh dear.
I'll try and fix it.
Oh dear, oh dear. Of course, tech issues in the final on the final season. Always great. But let's hear from Jeff. Jeff, mate, picking up P3 in the sprint race, and in the, I want to say in the feature, it was a little bit of an unlucky result as well for yourself, but, you know, doing well for the team, picking up points for the team, and I believe you were a stand-in, were you not, for the final round?
Yeah, sorry. I had some bad luck with the traffic. Some blue flag kept me up during the race. But yeah, it was a super result for the team, super result for the team over the whole season. Congrats to Ben for winning the championship. Congrats to the team for winning the constructors. And yeah, I'm pretty happy today.
Yeah, that's really cool. And obviously, your main race was the Formula 3. And how do you think your season's gone so far in that? Obviously, interesting to hear what you think of the differences between the two cars as well. Obviously, you're primarily driving the F3. You come in here for the F1 and do very well in it, show that you've got pace in it as well. You know, was there anything that was particularly different about the race strategy between the two, or was it pretty similar?
Yeah, so I had some experience with this track car combination. I did a race earlier in Brazil, so I knew what I was getting into. But the main difference would be you don't have the fuel strategy. The fuel is preset from the beginning. You cannot refuel during the race. You have different tire compounds, which is also pretty tricky to get the right one. And you have of course the DRS, right? DRS makes a huge difference. When you are faster than the car behind, but he manages to stay inside of the second, then it's a different race altogether, like in F3.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously, you say that the DRS, of course, makes quite a big difference, but the DRS, or I'd imagine the slipstream in F3 is still relatively strong, right?
Yeah, the slipstream is relatively strong, but the difference is that once you pass the guy in front and you are faster, then you stay ahead. But here, if you have to be like a good half a second to a second per lap quicker to get him out of the DRS, that's the big problem.
Hmm. I was going to say, I imagine it makes doing race strategy a little bit harder as well, because there's a couple of people that I imagine you pass and you're like, right, finally I've gotten past. I can, just focus on my race, and then immediately in the next corner on the DRS straights, they're back at you again, because the DRS, as you say, is so powerful. And I'd imagine can almost be a little bit frustrating, I imagine.
Yeah, yeah, don't tell me about it. I had this today with the back marker. He came out on fresh tires, and I was like, no, that will be ugly, because I had Easton behind, and
Mhm.
Easton was a teammate of mine last season in F3, so I knew the guy was quick, and I had to push.
Yeah, absolutely. But hey, it all went well in the sprint. Of course, you picked up a P3, and as you say, great result for the team. And, great result for yourself. And the other question as well, seeing as it is the final race of the season, at least for the F1, are you going to be back with us again next season?
I am not sure about that, as today I'm only replacing Hannes, who couldn't make it today. I'm only replacing him, and we'll see what the future holds. If next season the team needs a driver for the occasional race, we are going to see who takes the seat. And yeah.
Well, there we go. Hopefully, hopefully we can see you back in F1, because that would be
Thank you.
really fun. But before we
Thank
let you go, mate, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, so first of all, thanks to John, the co-team owner, for giving me the opportunity to drive. Also, thank you for Hannes for passing me the car for one race. And finally, I want to say good luck to Marian from F3. We'll see him tomorrow.
Sorry, you caught me just as I was finishing up eating.
No worries, no worries. It's life, man.
Yeah. Hey, we get hungry in the comms box too,
Yeah, I can imagine. I was hungry during the race as well.
Well, I won't hold you much longer, mate, so you can go grab yourself something to eat. But yeah, you heard it here from him. Yeah, massive shout out to everyone. And hopefully, mate, we'll see you back next season. If not, I'm sure you'll be back for the F3 at least. So we'll see you then.
Yes.
And
Yes.
good luck in your race tomorrow.
Thank you, and thanks for having me. See you.
See you later, mate.
Bye.
All right, let's bring in our man Frederick Larson and see if he's fixed the issues. All right, Frederick, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh,
No.
let's go! Frederick, mate, of course, win here in the sprint for Brazil. Obviously, Brazil's such an iconic circuit. It's got to feel nice to win here, right?
Yeah, especially after what happened in the feature race. I
Mm.
was already starting to prepare my speech about, I've been more consistent now. I have tried different things to make myself more consistent and so on. And then I mess it up in the first turn with 5 laps to go or something like that.
Yeah.
That was annoying, but it was a great race. But this was also the first time where I actually felt like I was part of the car. All the other races it has more been like me controlling a monster, basically. But
Yeah.
this time it was actually, it wasn't a monster this time. This time it was a nice dog, something like a bulldog. A bit aggressive, but still manageable.
Yeah, and I mean, as you say, maybe not the most consistent season from yourself, but overall, I think you've definitely proven yourself to be up there with the top guys, and, having these results near the end of the season, of course, pays homage to that you are.
I'm really quick in these cars. I know I'm one of the quickest, not to brag about it or anything, but yeah, because I'm always finishing in top of the leaderboards and qualifying, and I'm always fighting for the pole position, even though I haven't got it yet because of my consistency. I usually tend to mess it up in the last turn before finishing my lap, but that is what it is. But I'm really fast. I'm just not that consistent, so I have to build on top of that, and hopefully get some more points next season.
So speaking of that, obviously, with it being the final round of the F1, are you coming back again for the F1 season? Are you going to try and take the fight to Ben and the rest
Obviously.
of the Intent team?
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh, well.
I'm coming back. It
Plain and
might be
simple.
for a different team, but I'm coming back.
Hey, I mean, no matter what team you race with, everybody knows the name at this point, right? You gotta keep the home names.
Yeah.
You've got to do the greatest driver to never win a championship series, maybe.
I'm gonna do Hulkenberg
Yeah.
just with winning a race.
But hey, I mean, you've got one, so there you go. You've got a race win.
Yeah,
And yeah,
that's
now we
true.
just need more.
Yeah, yeah. Now I just need 5 or 6 more and
Yeah.
not crash every time. But yeah, then it will be good.
But of course, mate, you know, Frederick, it's always a pleasure when I get to talk to you. And, you know, you have proven, as I say, throughout the season that you are definitely up there. And, you know, I look forward to seeing you back again next season. And before we let you go, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to? Anyone you want to sort of thank for getting you there?
Yeah, my team. It is a very good team. And also Danny. I don't know if I'll be able to speak with the commentator in the race tomorrow in F3, but this is probably going to be Danny's last full season, so I just want to say that I'm going to miss him. We have been teammates for 3 years now, so it's going to be fun, but also also really sad to not have him around as much as he used to be in the next season.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
let's try not to make the tears flood too much. I'm sure we will all miss Danny around here. Danny's been obviously been with us for pretty early on as well in the IFL scene. So I believe all 3 of us actually came in at the same time. Myself, you, and Danny. I was doing primarily team management back then, but you know, raced every now and then in the F1 alongside Igor and Jakob for pleb racing. I love the team. But yes, of course, for you guys, for, you know, racing with Orion and everything, you guys have really proven that you're one of the fastest in both F1 and F3, and, you know, it'll be a shame to see Danny not around, but hopefully we can carry the torch on and continue doing such for you guys, because, you know, that will mean a lot to him, I imagine.
Yeah, hopefully he can still provide me with some setups. He's making some really good setups in the F3 car, because I think he has made 2 setups for the entire season, and I've just used them over and over again, and it's always a very good setup, even though it's the same one. So I don't know, he's doing some magic with that.
Well, I'll let you head off, mate, so you can grab your food and whatever else you need to get, and hopefully again we'll see you back here next season. And good luck if you're racing tomorrow. I can't remember if you also do the F3, but good luck in that.
Thank you, and I do, and I don't crash a lot as much in that series as I do in Formula 1.
But yeah, congratulations, mate.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, now we will bring in Troy Banks, I believe we'll hear from before we hear from our championship winner. Troy, congratulations, mate, to yourself. Picking up, I believe it was 3rd in the main race, I want to say.
Yes.
Looking at the results. And, you know, the sprint as well was going well up until an unfortunate, I believe it was an unfortunate mishap between yourself and Frank, with Frank coming out the pit lane. So maybe a little bit of a sour note to end on, but you and Gianluca had an amazing fight here in the main race, and, you know, I wanted to get your thoughts. You know, you've gotten yourself on the podium now, and I mean, it has to feel pretty good to get yourself on the podium for the main race, at least, right?
Oh yes, I mean to make the podium in any race, it's great. I mean, fantastic racing between Ben and Frederick um, in the early stages. Towards the end, when I got on the softs, like they was gripping too much for me, and I was turning in too much. I was found myself correcting myself on turn in, and and next thing I know, John Luca was on me, and at the end, like I couldn't hold him off. Like I kind of had was slow coming out that last turn before the front straight,
Mm.
and he got me on the last lap. But it was fun racing, man. It was really good.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely looked like you were out there and you seemed to be battling with absolutely everybody at one point. And, you know, it looked like, for me commentating, it's one of those things that you see like 4 cars on track all trying to fight for the same position. And it's exciting to watch. And as a driver, I can imagine it must feel amazing to have those experiences. And I think you get those more often in a league scenario, right? I mean, you've been around here for a while now and have probably experienced this quite a few times. And you know, I just wanted to wonder actually what your thoughts were on how the league is at the moment, and you know how you feel like your season's gone so far, and how you're gonna sort of, if you're going to continue with us moving forward, and what you're going to be doing, what your plans are.
The league is great. Great group of guys that run the league. Great group of racers. Everybody race hard. Pretty fair. You know, respectable. Yes, I'm definitely returning. As long as the league will have me, I'll be returning every season. Um, and like I say, for this last race, man, I shocked myself to be up there in the fight with Ben and Frederick and them guys. I mean, because usually I'm sitting behind, I'm watching the fight.
Yeah.
You know.
Front row seats,
But
though.
yeah. I usually have front row seat, but to actually be in it, I mean, I'm just excited right now.
Yeah, and I mean, as I say, it looked like it was going really well in the sprint as well, obviously, until, you know, there was a little bit of a collision. But, you know, I mean, regardless and all of that, I think this season, I think you have definitely shown that, you know, you've improved a lot. I think I've seen a massive improvement from race 1 all the way until here, and as a driver, you continuously are getting faster and more comfortable with the car, it seemed, as well. So, hopefully what that means is moving forward next season, maybe we see you up near the front more often.
Oh, that is definitely the plan. That is definitely my plan. Yeah, in the sprint, like I got a really good jump off the line. You know, I seen a couple cars, you know, crashing, and you know, I kind of avoided it, and I found myself up to third. I was like, okay, I can get a podium here too. And then I think it was like second or third lap. At the end of the straight, Frank got into me. You know, I guess he kind of, because I was slowing down because I had the other two, first and second was right there. So, and I guess I was braking a little bit earlier than what Frank anticipated.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, he kind of got into me, but it was cool. I mean, I'm just was so excited from the main race. It really didn't even bother me at all.
I mean, hey, when you have a great first race, you know, and everything goes your way, you're just like out there having a great time, you know. These small little things don't matter as much. So, yeah, I mean, it was definitely really cool to see more faces up there and names that, you know, typically aren't necessarily as high up. And, you know, it's definitely something that's, as I say, refreshing. It's nice to see. And for everyone to have that chance to eventually find a circuit they really gel with as well and can push as hard as they are is really cool. And I think that's something you really only get in racing, right? Like, to have those unexpected things happen.
Oh yes, most definitely. I mean, this past week I put a lot of laps down on this track because I wanted this race to be a good one for me. So I put a lot of laps in, you know, all week. So and it paid off.
Yeah, absolutely. But mate, as I say, congratulations on a P3 in the final round of the season, and good luck. Obviously, if you are racing again tomorrow, I can't remember who does F1 and F3, but good luck if you are racing tomorrow, and if not, well, good luck in the next season as well. And I'm sure we'll see you back again. But before we let you go, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to?
Shout out to all the guys in this league. The guys that runs it, the racers. I mean, you guys are putting on the commentation. Like, it's just, everything is just phenomenal. And I thank you all for that, man.
Well, thank you as well for providing us a good show to commentate on. It's always fun being able to watch some of the best battle it out on track. And as I say, you go get yourself whatever it is you need to get. I'm sure food is on the agenda at some point. So. And, you know, maybe some champagne as well. Why not? Celebrate in style.
Oh, yeah.
All right. But cheers, buddy. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. Have a good one, bro.
And last but certainly not least, Ben, mate, congratulations on not only a feature race win, feature race win and sprint race win, but the win in the championship, and what a convincing way to do it, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was P2 in the sprint, I think. In the end.
P2 in the sprint,
No?
Sorry, yes. Yeah, Frederick Larson took it. But anyway.
Championship's the one that matters. We've got to get that away after the feature race, and then it just meant I could race freely in the sprint. It was quite fun. Not having to worry about dropping points or anything.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, it was really cool to see how, you know, you pushed hard in the sprint, and I mean, in the feature, and, you know, the feature race was still, like, there was still battling going on. It wasn't necessarily easy all the way through, and, you know, I was actually watching and seeing a couple of names in there that caught me off guard a little bit in terms of names that aren't necessarily up there near the top too often. I mean, Troy Banks was one of them, and, you know, as someone who's been racing with these guys now for, you know, 12 races, I can imagine that you maybe thought a little bit as well. Like, you were like, hold up, there's more people here than usual. Like, what? What's going on?
I got a really bad start in the feature.
Yeah.
So I was dropped down to like fourth after the first lap, and I thought, you know, Troy's got ahead, but based on the previous 11 races, I think it should be fairly straightforward to get past him. But no, he was really quick today. It's impressive.
Yeah, and one other thing as well, Ben, is you know, we look forward to next season, and the obvious question: are you going to be back next season? You got to defend your championship,
I'm
right?
Maybe. I don't know yet. It's a maybe.
Okay. I mean, we'll take a maybe. We'll take a maybe. But of course, mate, you know, you win the championship in a pretty convincing way, and to have it then be, you know, a championship that I say was sort of up and down for your season results, especially near the beginning, was almost may sound like a surprise to some people if they watch just the latter half of the season, right? Because near the beginning, obviously, you were there or thereabouts with the Racing Lab guys, and then as they started to drop off and miss a few rounds, you started really coming into a form of your own. And I think, you know, overall, how do you think the season went? Did you think it was pretty smooth all the way through, or were there things that maybe you thought could have gone better?
Yeah, definitely the start wasn't great. I think I'd maybe done 2 official races in this car before joining the league.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd raced the W12 and I was really happy with that. But then the massive change is W13. And I was still kind of getting used to it at the start of the season. I didn't really feel I was in control, but I couldn't get that 99% push. I had to like maybe rein it back to not crash. But then throughout the season, just partly getting used to it myself, also finding some setup tricks to help that, and just kind of come into my own.
Yeah, and that's the other thing as well, is regarding the setups. Obviously, we do race with open setups here in the IFL, and were a lot of those setups done by you in collaboration with the rest of the team, or were you sort of independent and just sort of asking each other every now and then? Like,
yeah, it was mostly independent.
Okay.
You know, we're a team, but we're still like racing each other for the championship, so it's not like hostile. Just maybe, you know, if you find a little extra tent, you're not necessarily going to share it.
Yeah. It's like if someone says they're really struggling, you'll do like a setup that you made like a couple setups ago. Not quite the best setup, but like the one that maybe works just well enough.
And like we each have our own preferences, so you know it's no guarantee that even if we shared all the exact same setup that we'd all do the exact same.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something we see obviously, you know, in real life as well, you know, the difference between, say, Max Verstappen and everyone else. You know, it seems like the car gets set up in a completely different way for him, and no one else can seem to drive it as well. You know, and I imagine that, as I say, iRacing being the simulator that it is, attempts to try and almost replicate that to some degree. You know, some people, as you say, prefer more of like a pointy car, you know, sharper turning, but maybe sluggish on exit, whereas others prefer the opposite of that. You know, and it's very cool to see that setup difference, especially within the team as well. But as I say, if it's all independent setups, I mean, you guys have done incredible work all season then to really just get the cars where they needed to. You know, your results have been incredible all season long, and I think to say that you're potentially not coming back is a little bit of a sad spot. I want to see Ben back again for the championship. I want to see the number one next to his name.
It's a maybe. I'll have to check my schedule and everything.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, everyone remembers that we do this for fun. Really, there's you know, there are prizes and everything in it, but it's primarily for fun factor for us. It's not like we're getting paid to do this.
No.
But mate, I mean, what a season you've had, and you know, I could talk all bloody stream about, you know, how good of a season you've had and how it hasn't necessarily been the easiest, but you've definitely shown that throughout the later part of the season you've just been on a roll. And yeah, it was a bit of a shame to see Rowley not necessarily have the best results as well. I was looking to maybe have an exciting time of commentating between you two, but hey, I mean, you know, these things happen in racing. But congratulations again for yourself in the championship. And before we let you go for one final time, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to?
Well, I've got a very patient girlfriend who allows me to spend 3 or 4 hours on a Saturday afternoon doing whatever I want. So shout out to her. Been a lot of support throughout the season, and then to the rest of the team as well, especially Rowley. And you know, it was actually really. I was very disappointed when I saw him have a bit of a spin in the feature race, because it's been so fun racing him throughout the season, and he's definitely pushed me to get quicker. So it was just, yeah, devastating to see him crash out. I thought we could have had a fun race, especially in the sprint.
Yeah, but...
and then to the team as well, just to John, team owner, getting the championship in both the drivers and the constructors.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, one other thing I was actually curious about just before we do let you go is, obviously you guys have both the Inten Sim Racing team and the Inten Flat Out Sim Racing team. And I take it going into the championship, it was very much regardless on which team wins it, Inten has won the constructors, if it was Inten Flat Out or if it was Inten Sim Racing, right?
Yeah, we'd celebrate. You know, if Inten lost and Flat Out won, then we'd be celebrating with them.
Yeah. I was just curious about how that was going to go, because I know you guys have said you're pretty, like, by yourself for the most part, so...
Well, I mean, only on set, you know, we're still friendly to each other. It's not like 2016 Mercedes vibes.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. The two parts of the garage might as well just be two different teams. But mate, congratulations once again, and I won't hold you for too much longer. After all, you should probably be getting yourself some food and back to your girlfriend who is so patiently waiting.
Yeah.
But yes, congratulations again, mate, and I can't wait to see you back, hopefully, next season.
Yes.
But if not, then I'm sure the Inten guys will be waving the banner. But yes, mate, congratulations, and once again, thank you very much.
All right, cheers. Thanks.
And there we have it. That is it. That is us done and dusted for the IFL Season 5 for the Formula 1 series. 12 rounds of exciting action, all done and dusted. But we can't wait to see you back again for Season 6. But do remember, Formula 3 coming out tomorrow. Same time as this stream went live over on the Team Goon Squad channel. Make sure to check it out. Support everybody. Support us. Support your favorite drivers. Support everything that goes on. Spread the love. Thank you all for watching. Have a great rest of your day, or evening, or morning, wherever it is in the world you are. Ciao for now.